We have some wonderful Canadian whiskeys where I live. All right, so the one downfall to the card scraper is this. It has no sole. No S-O-L-E, not an S-O-U-L. Although the Japanese argue that their tools do have soles, but that gets into existentialism and we're not going to tackle that one today. So, because it doesn't have a sole, you really run the risk of digging in to the surface. And if you dig into the surface, you don't get a flat result. And so, a scraping plane is essentially a card scraper mounted in a plane body. You treat the blade pretty much the same way. The only difference is that this blade is sharpened to a 45-degree angle instead of a 90-degree. And that just makes it a little easier to put a very delicate a delicate burr on the edge, right? Because sometimes with this plane, what if you've got a nice inlay with beautiful contrasting woods, light and dark, and you need to scrape that in order to not have the colors bleed. I like using holly and ebony right next to each other. Holly because it's the whitest wood on the planet, ebony because it's the blackest wood on the planet. If you sand that, you end up with gray holly. Not cool. So the only way to not do that is to scrape it or to plane it. Planing holly, no problem. Planing ebony, big problem. Okay? So, card scraper or scraping plane. You do the exact same thing except you're working at a 45-degree angle. So again, you use the file, 45-degree angle, normal file. Turn it 90 degrees, draw file. If you want, you can put this into the sharpening jig and hone it if you want, right, if it makes you feel better, but I typically don't. I don't know, maybe I'm lazy, I don't know. And then the same deal, a little bit of lube, and then with a very, very light touch, just put a little bit of an edge on there. Okay, not much. Here's the part where people get lost. The plane has the ability to change the angle of the card scraper, the blade. But what do you set that at? It's different every time because when you put a hook on here, you're not prescribing a hook. So what you have to do is you take a board, you take the board, and you run the card scraper along it until you get shavings. Shavings there, dust there, nothing there. So about there. Very scientific, isn't it? I loosen off these knobs. And get it as close as I can by eye. If I go to use the plane and it doesn't work at that angle, then chances are I need to bump it like a little bit one way or a little bit the other, but at least I'm in the neighborhood now. Okay? So then, you just put the blade in till it contacts the bench, very, very lightly, and lock that into place. Now it probably will cut. Or not. That's okay. Because I've got a little wheel back here, like a little knob, that I'm going to turn, and that knob will put pressure on the back of that blade and bow it. Just like I did with this. Right? I bowed it to use it. Same idea. That also takes the corners out of the work. Right? So now, if I add a little bit of camber, there we go. And you notice it's not, there you're getting shavings. You notice it's not cutting all the way across. You can hear it, right? Because I hit it with this first, and it's got no sole. And so this is not flat anymore. So now this is only hitting the high spots. Okay? And it's slowly bringing that into flat with no tear out. Okay? So for the woods that you guys use all the time, this is a good tool. I dissuade North Americans from buying this tool because they don't need it. I haven't found a North American wood yet that doesn't respond to a properly tuned hand plane. And I mean, there are some gnarly ones, right? Curly maples, bird's eye maples, very, very prone to tear out. Things like mesquite. It's like a gnarly little tiny tree that really is only good for flavoring food on your barbecue and making pipes, right? But it's a real nasty wood. But some people like using mesquite, like they'll make like a little panel and they'll inlay the panel, right? And then smooth it off, and they usually do that with a scraping plane, but you can actually do it fairly effectively with a hand plane.
What's the steel that's used in the scraping?
That, I believe, is high carbon steel. Yeah, it's basically the same kind of spring steel, right?
Could that replace the smoother?
No. So the general rule is that the lower the angle of attack when you smooth a board, whether it's with a smoothing plane or with a scraping plane, the lower the angle of attack you can achieve and not get tear out, the better. Because you get more of a slicing cut, and so you get a much nicer finish. If I were to take a piece of, let's say, just regular maple, right? Well, actually, I wonder if we'll be able to tell. Hold on, give me a second. Oh, I know how to do this. I'm going to hand plane this Jara. And I'm going to get a nice polish on it. There we go. So what I want to do is I want to get it shaving all the way across the board. Okay, so I've got a pretty decent surface across this board, and now I'm going to do, I call this the skunk experiment. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one swipe with the card scraper. Hold that up to the light and tell me if you see a difference. Huge difference in the sheen that you get.
So the scrape surface is more like something that's been sanded to a high grade, whereas the plane is more of a polish, would you say, is it?
Yeah, similar, yeah. You can see it and you can feel it, can't you? So that's why I tell people, like, don't go running for the scraper all the time, because you're actually getting a less desirable finish.
But it's more desirable than tearing.
Oh, I agree,
Exactly,
agree.
Yeah.
But like Jara, it responds well. This is a fairly low angle plane, and it's handling this no problem. Which is good, because I actually like the look of that wood. I'm going to try to get my hands on it in North America and use it for stuff, because it'll cost me a pretty penny. It's probably, I bet you it'd be about $30, $40 a board foot. But, oh, it's worth it. It planes beautifully, and it's so rich in color, and it's a palette that you don't see a lot in North America, right? And so then if I do that in my furniture, others will look at mine and go, whoa, what's going on there? What is that? Wow, that's Jara.